What's up, Big 12 Nation? It is Tuesday night in America. That can mean only one thing. It is time for another edition of your favorite YouTube-centric college football Big 12 themed show. That's right. It is the one. It is the only. It is the biggest 12 with me, your host, Clint Foster. And thanks so much for making us part of your Tuesday night wherever you are doing it. Twitter users, salute to you. Hello, YouTube users. What's up? Good to have you back. And hey, maybe you're catching us on your audio platform of choice. Oh, you so-and-so. Congratulations to you, because we're out there, right? Spotify, Apple, Amazon, you name it, we're there. Go ahead and subscribe to the show. But, that's the big thing I need from you. Subscribe. If you're watching on Twitter, hey, I love you, and I'm so glad you're here. Please hop on over to YouTube. Give us a subscribe at Big 12 Voice of College Football right there, and help me grow this show, okay? Help me help you. Help me bring you great Big 12 college football content, okay? And also, while you're subscribing to things and following things, subscribe to my YouTube channel at Clint Foster Comedy. I have officially made the decision that is the exclusive home of my documentary feature that I'm working on right now. I'm actually in the process of licensing some music for that feature. So that's all I've had time to do since school has gotten started back up, and I'm, teaching, molding young minds and all that sort of thing, in addition to feeding y'all's college football habit, mine as well. And follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55. That's all the good stuff. That's all the stuff I need for you to do. We got a fun show. We are talking, speaking of school, Big 12 report cards for 2024. Who did good? Who made the grade? Who probably needs to repeat a semester because, they didn't really do that hot. But we're going to talk about all of it. And we're going to have several guests joining us, familiar faces, throughout the evening. But to start things off, we got him. You know him. You love him. Here he is. He's from Wide Right Natty Light. Brownie, ladies and gentlemen. Brownie, how are you doing?
I'm excited for report cards because I'm on this side of the table for once. I get to hand out the bad grades instead of receiving them.
It's a whole different paradigm, man. It's a whole different paradigm. The chickens are coming home to roost. So first thing we got to get out of the way, and we started talking about this before we went live. Who are you rooting for in the national championship?
I'm honestly extremely excited. I'm picking Notre Dame over the Ohio State. I think the primary reasons is Freeman had a great roster. He inherited a great roster. I think he retained it extremely well. And who doesn't like the non-conference cheese that these guys have pulled? They're getting all of the playoff money to themselves, which is absolutely hilarious and is a bee in everybody's bonnet. And the only thing I can say for it is it's a making of their own doing. If they didn't make the college football playoffs, they wouldn't get the $35 million. But it's just like an incentive for any head coach. The more you win, the more money you get. Now, if the SEC wants to go and hem and haw and complain about this thing because they have to share it with lowly Vanderbilt, there are two options here, right? One, reduce conference sizes, no more super conference. Or two, you got to put it in your contract that you're not going to subsidize the lower teams. And that's going to piss off the lower teams, and they're probably going to leave and make their own conferences. And bye-bye P5, P4, and G5, G6, whatever you want to call it. And maybe we can get back to the regionals. But, I mean, if the money is there, do it. And I'm happy for them.
Yeah, it would be hilarious.
Take my money.
It would be hilarious if after all of the hand wringing about realignment and super conferences and all this whole situation just devolved back into the original regional conference setup. Like I just
back the Big Eight without.
I know the Big Eight, the Southwest Conference. Like I'm hoping and I'm praying for these things to just return. And I really feel like there's a greater than zero chance that it could happen either by super conferences getting so large that they have to split into regional divisions. Right. Or through this, everyone's getting mad about money. So, everyone goes their separate ways. And as annoying as it is that Notre Dame is keeping all of the money, good for them. Good for them. That and anything that's going to pee in the Cheerios of the SEC and the Big Ten is A-okay with me. I'm not a Notre Dame fan by any stretch, but I hate Ohio State. I was rooting for Ohio State against Texas. You better believe that. Okay. And I was cackling like a maniac whenever that scoop and score occurred after
The
after the
slowest scoop and
pitch on the
score I
1
have
yard
ever
line. What are we
seen in
doing?
my life.
Yes. But I'm rooting hard. I'm rooting hard for Notre Dame in the championship. I love Coach Freeman. He seems like a really quality individual. I really love that quarterback, Leonard. He seems like a really good kid. Love is a very fun running back. Yeah, go ahead. Let the Irish win another national championship. Why not? Okay. I'm more about making Ohio State miserable than anything else.
Same.
Go ahead, Brownie.
Oh, absolute same. I want the Ohio State to reap what they sow, and I would love Kirk Herbstreit to choke on all of the words that he has spewed out this entire season.
He's just gonna change course. He's gonna be like, oh, this is what I always would have wanted. And by the way, here's my dog.
This just in. Sorry, completely forgot this. Kirk Herbstreit does not run his own Twitter. His son does.
Yeah. Whatever.
So not his words, his son's words.
Yeah. How dare he? So chat, let us know who are you rooting for in the national championship. We'll take some time to detour back to this topic throughout the evening. Why not? It's coming up. While we're talking about it, I mean, might as well. Is your team? Well, actually, I know your team isn't still alive in the playoffs, but chat, is your team still alive in the playoffs? And if not, who are you rooting for to win the Super Bowl? Pretty much anybody but the Chiefs, right? Is where I'm at. I'd love to see the Lions take it home, personally.
Poor Chargers, man.
Yeah.
That scrimmage game, I can't wait for our actual playoff game. That scrimmage game was rough to watch against the Texans.
I'm starting to, as the Chargers being my B team, behind the Cowboys, I'm starting to subscribe to the theory that Justin Herbert just throws the ball way too freaking hard, right?
And not only that, the dude throws way too freaking much.
Yeah.
Especially in a Harbaugh system that is like, oh, let's do run, play action, pass, run.
Yeah.
Like he's still throwing the football for like 50, 60 times a game, dropping back for that. Like, it's insane.
Yeah. Jackson, love to see it. Jackson's pulling for Notre Dame. Go Irish, right? They can't keep us down any longer, us Irish folks, and rooting for the Lions as well. That's a man after my own heart right there. Good for you, Jackson. I hope that we both end the season's happy.
As long as it's not the Chiefs, man.
Yeah, anybody but the friggin' Chiefs. Good grief. Can you recall? I mean, I know this is a Big 12 show, but can you recall a more frustrating number 1 seed than the Chiefs this year? I mean, it didn't feel like they earned any of those wins. None of them. I mean, it's a little bit of a tired talking point, but this feels like the worst 14, 15 win team I've ever seen. Am I wrong?
No. And I think that the Chiefs remind me of, oh boy, what year was that? Was that 2011, 2012 when the Seahawks got in with a losing record? They were 7-9. And they clinched their division.
But I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, they clinched their division as a 7-9 team, and you're sitting there and I'm like, yeah, they have to play in the wild card still, but at the same token, what are we doing? The Chiefs are not the best team in the AFC. I think they are the best officiated team in the AFC.
That's the key.
Because they got 12. Well, how many officials are on the field for NFL games? 6, 7?
Yeah, something like that.
So 18 players. 18 versus 11 sucks, man.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for
one.
me, I would love a Bills-Lions Super Bowl, because then I'd be like, either team wins, I'm happy. Good for those fans. They've suffered enough. I'd be very happy with that. We got to keep the Commanders and the Eagles out, point blank. And, I mean, I'd be okay with the Ravens being in it. I'd be okay with the Rams being in it. But I feel like Bills-Lions winning, that's my A1
Could
scenario.
we almost get the Four Falls of Buffalo Part 2 if the Bills keep failing at this?
Five Falls of Buffalo.
Yeah, because I mean,
Yeah.
like, I don't know if you've seen that, like 30 for 30 or whatever, but it's a little
Yeah.
insane. Why is my camera frozen on a really weird face? It's gonna be that kind of day, I guess. But yeah, like I remember watching the Four Falls of Buffalo, and I was like, man, these guys are like one of the unluckiest group of talented individuals ever that I
Yeah.
have ever seen in my entire life. And it's happening again.
Yeah. Well, initially unlucky because they lose two tough games to the Giants and the Redskins in their first two Super Bowls, but then they run into the buzzsaw that is the early '90s Cowboys.
The
I mean,
Cowboys. Yep.
yeah, like oh, would that those days would ever come back? And now we might be hiring Dion.
Oh
Just what we
boy.
need. Just what we need.
Prime time.
We can mortgage our entire future for Shadur Sanders. Amazing. Jackson's correcting you there. It's the 2010 season when the Seahawks had a losing record.
I knew it was sometime in that neck of the woods.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be interesting at prime time. I always thought that Deion Sanders was going to get to Florida State before he made it to the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, and also like, there's no way you can tell me that Deion Sanders is one of the 32 best coaches in the world, right? Like, I really don't begrudge the guy. I don't hate the guy at all, but just the astroturfing and the gaslighting of the media coverage of him, it's absurd. I think
it's his recruiting.
Yeah. I mean, I think he could really succeed at Florida State. I do. But
yeah. You give him the state of Florida and he's going to make the U look like the poo.
Yeah. The poo.
The poo.
And on that note, let's get back to talking about the Big 12. We might as well start with Iowa State. I was going to mostly go through these in alphabetical order, but Brownie, you're here. I'm here. Let's talk about those Cyclones. Greatest season record-wise in Iowa State history. And let's be honest, your Pop-Tart Bowl champions, it literally does not get any better than that. Notre Dame wishes that they could claim that mantle. So I don't feel bad saying this is the best season in Iowa State history. I know you've said differently on the show in the past. It's an A+ season for me, even though Iowa State didn't win the Big 12 championship. Where do you fall?
So I gave him an A. I didn't quite give him an A+ because it felt like the couple of losses that we had were of our own demise. We went into Kansas, we didn't scheme properly, we got our butts kicked, we didn't see any changes, and then we just lost again to Texas Tech like the week before by 1, and we had some very questionable offensive and defensive play calls. And then the Arizona State championship game, like that was absolutely ridiculous. That specifically, that Arizona State game is what gives them an A over an A+. I think that if it was more competitive, we kept it within 7, I give them that A+. But we got railroaded by the man that is Cam Scadaboo.
Mm-hmm. As did so many. And what a beautiful time for Ralph to join us. Ralph, hello, my friend. Welcome back to your favorite show that I host. How are you doing?
Doing well. How are you guys?
Doing excellent. Who are you rooting for in the national championship, Ralph?
Notre Dame.
Had a kid.
There's a couple of kids I covered in high school on the Ohio State roster that I'm a huge fan of. Denzel Burke, Lathan Ransom. But Notre Dame has a Jordan Clark who spent 4 years as a Sun Devil. Really, really easy kid to root for. And they might get some playing time out of that 6'8", 350-pound offensive lineman, Tosh Baker, this week, who's their primary backup, but I think some people went down. So he's another kid that I covered pretty extensively in high school. He's actually Spencer Rattler's main offensive lineman back in the day. So I'm kind of rooting for Notre Dame. I guess it doesn't matter to me either way. But Notre Dame, I think since 2000 was like 0-8 going into this year in major bowls. It'd be really wild to see that turned around in a year where they lost to to a G5 team and with Brian Kelly watching somewhere. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw somebody say on Twitter, like, I think I'm realizing that I never actually hated Notre Dame. I just hated Brian Kelly.
Oh, 100%. As soon as he started coming out with those cringy recruiter videos, that sealed it for me.
Yeah. But this is an insanely likable Notre Dame team, I think, from a, historically unlikable program, which is very fun. Very fun to see that. So I do want to talk to you about your the great Atlanta screw job and your Peach Bowl experience. But first, Ralph, how would you grade Iowa State's season?
Iowa State, gosh, it was. I mean, we never have to hear double-digit wins ever again, ever.
Woo-hoo.
So that's pretty great.
Woohoo. 10-win season has now officially been bumped up to 12-win season, though.
Yes, a new
Gotta
goal.
move the goalposts.
And it felt like a pretty I think that because of what happened with BYU, Colorado, Arizona State, people aren't talking about Iowa State overperforming expectations as much as they should.
Or over their prediction.
Yeah, and they kind of got tore up a little bit by the becoming the poster child of geofenced gambling consequences. So to recover from that too, actually, like it, I think
we just bet on ourselves.
But I don't know. I Rocco Becht was great. I didn't think you guys had elite running back talent, and you still managed to do some damage. Multiple 1,000-yard receivers, respectable defense, 10 wins. That's A minus to me.
Yeah, it's an easy A. It's an easy A. I say A plus just because of the historical significance. And I mean, Pop-Tart Bowl champions. I cannot overstate Pop-Tart Bowl champions.
Too, right?
Who cares about Big 12 champions? Pop-Tart Bowl champions, man.
I think we intentionally lost the championship game just so we could become the Pop-Tart champs. That is the new conspiracy.
Well, and also, were they not the highest ranked Big 12 team with no first place votes in the preseason poll?
Yes.
So I think you get credit for that as well. It's a good year.
It was a great year. It was a hell of a year, except for the championship game. Those puns.
And on that note, let's talk about Arizona State. So before we grade the Sun Devils, Ralph, I got to know about your experience being there live and in person at the Peach Bowl. We all saw it on TV. Our hearts were bleeding for you, and just the absolute screw job. There's no better word for it that occurred at the hand of the refs. Tell us about your experience.
It was fantastic. I mean, it was a game I was credentialed for through Rivals, but I wanted to sit with my family. Like I wanted to sit with my wife. She's an alum. So I bought tickets and went down there and just had a fantastic time. Didn't realize that it was going to be, 60-40 ASU fans, maybe more than that, until we got to the stadium. There just wasn't a lot of burnt orange out and about in downtown Atlanta. And I was like, well, they were just here a couple of weeks ago. Maybe they're coming in late. Maybe they're staying in different hotels. And just maroon and gold everywhere. And then when we went into the stadium, we entered over on the Texas side, and it was just a bunch of maroon and gold coming through the entrance. So I was like, oh, well, maybe they're already in their seats. Went down to our seats. Texas fans were late arriving. ASU filled up their whole side. It was loud and fun and action-packed and a great presentation, and it was very cool. Very cool.
Except the no targeting bullshit.
Yep. And can you believe Texas the very next week bitching about a no targeting call against Ohio State? Like,
you can't even make this up. Texas is the biggest bunch of crybabies. And then they always go like, oh, like the refs are always against us and like that's not a taunting call either. And I was like, bro, you are the softest fan base. You literally get mad when we do this. And you're out here saying that and shooting things is not like taunting. Like, come on, man.
Yeah,
drives me bananas.
I mean, just so actually, I was flying that day, And in the airport, I was wearing this Arizona State shirt and carrying my TCU duffel bag. And somebody at my gate was actually talking to me like, "Oh, that's really weird. Like, it's confusing. Why would you have a TCU duffel bag and an Arizona State shirt?" I was like, "No, you don't understand."
Frankie Collins.
Well, yeah, this is I'm in the tank for Frankie Collins, right? An injured basketball
We're
player.
related. He's my cousin.
Yeah. But I was like, this is an entirely anti-Texas wardrobe choice that I'm wearing right now.
That's so funny.
Yeah. and they were like, oh, she was like, "Oh, you're flying to Dallas. You better not say that." I was like, "Well, I'm flying to where TCU is, so it's
Fort
fine."
Worth.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, on a couple of the controversial things. First of all, very poorly officiated game on both sides. Very erratic the way it was officiated. Arizona State held probably like 20 times and never got called. And Texas fans were getting sick of that because their defense is an electric factory of size, speed, strength, agility. They were tough. They were a really tough bunch, and they were flying around, and they have a fantastic secondary. The big calls, I mean, Cam Scadaboo got face masked pretty bad on one occasion. They didn't call it. Michael Taffy ripped his helmet off after holding him, got called for 2 penalties on the same play, then got the benefit of the doubt on the non-targeting. I think I was more upset that Taffy wasn't like on notice when that happened, that they weren't like looking to flag him because of how aggressive he was playing. The targeting is a hard one for me to like plant my flag on because I don't think Shamari Simmons targeted the week before. And it was the same hit. So it was a weird place to be for Arizona State fans because we were like, we just had it explained to us that this is definitely targeting.
Yeah.
Like either all of us are wrong or all of us are right, and we should have had Shamari Simmons in the first half. And what's the first thing he did when he got in the game? He caused a fumble in the end zone and then tackled the guy who recovered it for a safety. He was an impact player who would have made a very big difference in the first half. Arizona State had a plenty of opportunities to win the game. So you can't say that like the refs took it because Arizona State had opportunities. The brutal thing is college football not having the same as NFL rules, where scores are automatically looked at from the tower. Because if scores are automatically looked at from the tower, that 4th and 13 touchdown in overtime would have been overturned. And that's game over. That's Arizona State in the college football playoff semifinals because the game tying touchdown was a drop. So, and it never, no one even, and I can't, that's a hard one to be mad at too, because it's not like Kenny Dillingham. There's a lot going on. And so ASU's coaching staff didn't even, I think they were just worried about the fact that they blew their coverage, had to go out there for a second overtime. But that should have been the end of the game. That game should have ended 38-31 Arizona State or whatever, 31-24 or whatever it was at the time. So I would say the most consequential calls definitely went against Arizona State and the whole fandom, and everybody has plenty of reason to be upset. However, they did still have chances to win and didn't. And that's a tough thing. Threw an interception there at the end, and nobody even wanted to talk about the fact that Arizona State kind of blew it in that second overtime because everyone was still thinking about the targeting. And I don't blame people because it was very cool to become this like sympathetic media darling nationwide. And almost like I figure we probably would have got steamrolled by Ohio State. So it was almost a win and a loss. But at the same time, take
it from me. When you win a playoff game and then get blown out in the second one, nobody remembers the win conveniently. Very convenient.
Right.
But you also saw, I mean, talking about the Devil going down to Georgia, just a generational performance by Cam Scadaboo. I think I saw it was the first time in a really long time that the MVP of the Peach Bowl came from the losing team. And oh my God, did he deserve every single bit of that. Dude was just unstoppable.
Yeah. I mean, I one of his best plays of the game, and I don't know if you guys will remember this because it was very inconsequential. but they threw a little screen to him in the first quarter, and the Texas defender charged up, and it looked like a car accident. It went for no gain, and the guy who hit him dropped down, wrapped up his leg, and just held it for 3 seconds until help could get there. But that collision right there, it was like, oh, number one, this is big boy football. And number two, like, I think Cam Scadaboo did just as much damage. And you could see that defense over time wear down on trying to on trying to get hands on him. And he's just a tough football player. And no one really had reason to watch Arizona State this year. So it kind of became fun week after week, watching every fan base be like, Cam Scadab, who? And then at the end of the game, they're like, oh my God, I never want to see that man again for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So that was
rallied, by the way, in pure Arizona State fashion.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And it was funny too, because people hadn't watched Arizona State because they were saying, he has a concussion. Arizona State's got to get him out of there. And that happened with every fan base all year long because the shaking of the helmet is a tick, right? He said he got a fat face and his pads stick, so he shakes them loose. So like that's just a tick, but everyone's like, oh, he's got a concussion, get him out of there. That's why he's puking on the sidelines. That's why he's ineffective. And I'm like, no, not at all. They saw Arizona State players yelling at each other in the first half, and they're like, oh, what a bunch of low character losers. I'm like, no, they just trust each other enough to always be screaming at each other. And it works. It worked. Like the way they talk to each other is the way I talk to my kids. Like, I told you to clean your room 5 times. If I got to say it a 6th, it's going to be louder. Like one of the first plays of the game, Sam Levitt is yelling at Cam Scadaboo. 20 million people are watching this game, and that's 19.9 million more than ever watch ASU. So it was very fun to get online and see how people were reacting to this team. I mean, Lindsay Lohan's dad, I don't know if you saw that, but Lindsay Lohan's dad was like, this arrogant kid is going to lose everything because of his attitude.
If I had a nickel for every time I heard that, I'd be
Lindsay
retired by
Lohan's
now.
Lindsay Lohan's dad, yes.
Yeah.
You would have more money than him.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
So let's grade it. Let's grade the season. I mean, I feel like I'm in the same camp as Iowa State. Maybe I'm just being too generous, but I feel like it's an A+ season from me. Where do you fall, Ralph, and where do you fall, Brownie, on Arizona State's season? Give them a grade.
I put them at an A+. I mean, these guys were picked dead last in preseason by literally everybody. And they came out and they started winning games, and everybody's like, oh, okay, like, must be a down year in the Big 12. Like, this is a fluke season. But, I mean, they produced numbers against tough opponents, and they took it to Texas. And outside of a couple of blown coverages on vital downs, we could have been seeing, Ohio State against Arizona State. So, for me, like, this is a freaking big W, A++. Give them that cute little star with the smiley face with the fantastic underneath it and everything. Like, that report card should look like a 4th grader's report card.
Scratch and sniff sticker.
Yeah, man. Get like the blueberry smiley face one.
Yeah, hey, that's a great. What scent of scratch and sniff sticker should Arizona State get for this season?
Strawberry banana.
Goldschlager. Do they make those?
Yeah, probably. We could probably do that.
Yeah.
So grade them, Ralph. Grade them.
Well, it's definitely an A+ year. And I think the biggest reason for that is if you watched Arizona State early, Sam Levitt didn't really know what he was doing, so he's just kind of running around. To end the season with, I think, 3 or 4 different games where he had 3 touchdown passes, a couple of 300-yard performances, miles ahead of where he was. You can tack the plus onto the A for the fact that they brought back everybody. So Cam Scadaboo is going to be really the only person off this team that doesn't take the field next year. And I even today on Facebook saw one Arizona State fan. I love Facebook. I love it. It's the most irrational place in the world. But I saw one Arizona State fan that was like, hey, have we considered that maybe Cam Scattaboo was overrated, and this Army running back that we're going to get is going to be able to step in for him. And it was just incredible to watch. We're 2 weeks out. People are thinking about next year, and they're like, maybe Cam Scattaboo wasn't the greatest player in the history of our college. Maybe we're going to be fine. Maybe you should pencil us in for another trip to Atlanta. So just the fact that like it didn't all get undone by the fact that a lot of these guys probably could have got more money elsewhere was the cherry on top of this season. And I think it's a lot like TCU in that really what it came down to is winning a lot of close games. Hopefully talent makes up for talent and development, bringing, 21 to 22 guys back or whatever, makes next year a little bit, little less nail biters, and more performances. I apologize, like we saw in the Big 12 championship.
Fabulous. And for those of you who didn't notice, new hair who dis, Brittany Rose is in the house with us. Brittany, welcome to the show. Thank you for coming back. Who are you rooting for in the national championship?
The Meteor. Ohio State. I am on the Will Howard train currently. I hate Notre Dame. I also hate Ohio State. But you know what? I'm feeling good about Will Howard, so we're going Ohio State.
Okay. Our first in the chat or on the show rooting for Ohio State. So
you guys all picked Notre Dame?
Yeah. Or at least I'm rooting for Notre Dame.
Yeah, picked.
I think it would be funny if Will Howard transferred and immediately won a national title without Kansas State. I think that's hysterical.
Why Kansas
What's funny
State
is a lot of Kansas State fans are rooting for him, though.
I know, it's kind of ruined it for me, but at the same time, I enjoy watching him. He's really good. I mean, I thought maybe just the one game that I'd watched was a fluke, and then I kept watching, and I'm like, no, he's legit. So I don't know.
Kansas State's just gonna claim the national championship adjacency if he wins.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I'm afraid of. That's kind of what I'm afraid of.
That's why you go with Notre Dame.
Dang the banner.
I can't.
National championship developer, quarterback developer.
I cannot believe that the Will Howard Kyle McCord thing is going to end up being a win-win.
Yeah.
And the thing is, too,
every possible option we entertained, I don't think that was ever one of them. This is going to be a great move for everyone.
Right?
Yeah, I don't think I can pick Notre Dame. My sister went to IU, Indiana, and Notre Dame took them out.
They did.
And Notre Dame fans, they aren't real.
Oh no.
They exist, but they're all t-shirt fans.
Are you about to have a moment like that girl on the plane where you that mother right there is not real?
Those and that first aren't real.
The amount of videos that I have clipped for that specific thing is astronomical on my hard drive, and I will not answer that question.
I will be making a video saying that if Notre Dame wins.
Fair enough. So we're giving out report cards. We've done Arizona State and Iowa State. On the complete
what did you guys give them?
I gave both an A+. We were unanimous A+ for Arizona State. Iowa State were in the range of A- to A+. Each.
I say A- because they didn't. I'd say B+, A-. It's good for them, but they didn't win the Big 12 championship or go to the playoff.
Yeah.
But 11-win season for the first time ever in school history.
Once again, I said for them, A+.
Pop-Tarts. That's all I have to say. Pop-Tart Bowl.
Pop-Tarts, baby.
You know what? They did win the Pop-Tart Bowl, too.
Yes.
Versus a really good team. I forgot about that. No, it's hard. That one's just a flat A.
Yeah. Well, on the opposite end of the spectrum from Arizona State, those Arizona Wildcats. And, I think they need to repeat. I think they need to repeat 2024 here. I think this is an F.
That's an understatement.
They did not do well at all, especially relative to expectations. What do y'all think about the Wildcats?
I gave them an F+.
Why an F+?
Because there was at least some hope, but not a lot of hope. I think that the F+ was specifically because they beat Utah, and I kind of went through the highs to the lows from the start to the end. And I was like, oh man, like they were 3-1 against Utah. They beat number 10 Utah, and then it just fell. And I'm like, that win against Utah is extremely great for them. F plus.
Yeah, I'd say like a legitimate F would be like Utah and Oklahoma State.
I mean, yeah, they're definitely Fs, but also Arizona had similar expectations, right? And when you consider how good of a season they had last year, and then you just switch the coach and conference and immediately crater, I don't know.
They were picked 5th, and then they finished 14th, so they did drop 9, which
Ralph, what do you think?
surprisingly is the 3rd worst drop on that list.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give them an incomplete, good old fashioned incomplete. I don't know. I not to be overly sympathetic, but it wasn't really like a fair year for them. The expectations never made sense. They made less sense than picking Arizona State last. They lost the entire coaching staff. They didn't get a portal period to replenish. And the 2 players that they kept back were incredibly talented. And Teteroy McMillan, I mean, he showed out all year long. But what were we expecting when the whole recruiting class, 5 of their best players, and every coach but one went elsewhere? Like that was a recipe for disaster the entire time. If Arizona gets an F, so does the entire Big 12 media for assuming that you can lose your whole coaching staff and a bunch of your best players, and then, have your best offensive lineman opt out of the season right before it starts, and that they were going to be in contention for anything. It's cool that they beat Utah in Salt Lake. That might not happen again for a long time. But this is not a well put together football team. Halfway through the season, they were wanting to fire a coach who didn't even get a portal period to replenish the roster. It was a huge mess. So I think I'm going to wait till the end of year 2 it's just such a unique situation. And I don't feel bad for them. I just don't feel like I can say I'm giving you an F because of somebody else's expectations that didn't make any sense.
Well, here's the thing. Like, some of you guys are rating on expectations that the Big 12 media had, or like compared to their past seasons. I thought of a report card as like just in general, just like how did they do this season alone, not looking at past or what they were expected to do. In which case, like, I mean, I think you have to give them an F, because otherwise you can say the same thing that you just said about a bunch of schools. You could say, okay, well, Utah had all the issues with Cam Rising, so it's not fair to them. Like, no, they'd suck.
That's true, but you also got to place some blame on Utah for not having other people developed and yada, yada, yada. But if we're doing it just relative to like who they are as a program, this is a C. Arizona football sucks. Their last 2 years ago was a massive anomaly. They're terrible. This is what they do. They go out and they suck. And so, they've the one good year they had under Jed Fish was preceded by 2 losing seasons. The year before that, they did not win a game. I think they lost like 20 straight games or something like that.
So what you're saying is they deserve an A.
They got 4 wins, man.
They got 4 wins.
Yeah, no, this was a typical Arizona football season. So if we're not factoring in expectations, then this is just what I've come to expect from this program. And I'm not even being mean about this. You just look at their past seasons. This is them.
You said something similar during the offseason when we were doing our ASU preview. You said something similar to me, and I was like, okay, I'm liking what you're putting down, and you were very much right. You're like, just hide and watch. Arizona's going to come out, and they're going to be terrible and shock everyone with how terrible they are. Yeah, sure enough.
Surprise.
Couldn't happen to a nicer group of folks. Right? Okay. Speaking of people that we all hate, the Baylor Bears. All right. What are we grading Baylor? Definitely outperformed several folks' expectations. I'm gonna need a minute to mull this one over personally, but where would y'all rank Baylor's season?
Can you pull up their
I'm
schedule?
doing it. I'm doing it as we
So
speak.
I know they beat
preseason they
Tech.
were projected 12th. They finished 5th. I think that it was a little touch and go until they finally figured out what football actually was. Fortunately, that happened after the Iowa State game.
And unfortunately, before the TCU game.
And unfortunately for you, before the TCU game, yeah. I give them like a C to B minus range. That Utah loss at the very beginning of the season obviously looks absolutely terrible now, where their other losses of the season were against 3 of the top 4 teams in the Big 12. And then the LSU game was just a hot bag of garbage.
Yeah.
So I think when it's the expectations of what Baylor was going into the season for and what they're now at, I give them that B minus grade. But if you're looking at it, the overall like history of Baylor and where they expect to be all the time, every time, being like the top dogs, I think it's a little bit lower in that C plus C range for at least probably what the fan base is going to give them. But I still think that it's a fairly solid season for Baylor on what they had. Just that Utah game is just a big ol' eyesore.
I
Yeah.
kind of agree with that because there's no like shocking wins on here. There obviously is the shocking loss to Utah, and that was considered a non-conference game. That wasn't even technically a conference game this year. I'm kind of with you where I'm like, okay, it's like decent. I mean, you could do B minus, but then once again, yeah, if you're looking at like where Baylor has been, what they expect, C plus.
Yeah, I think I'm feeling a B minus looking at this. The Texas Bowl, that's a real cruddy way to end the season, despite finishing the season really strong. And even though they did finish the season really strong, and there's all this enthusiasm around Dave Aranda again, you look at the teams that they beat, and like who's the best team they beat? Tech or TCU, right?
Tech or
Yeah, that's what
TCU
I'm
is the
saying.
best
That's not saying
team,
much.
There's not really like a surprising win. They had a shitty loss, but there's no really the 3 really hard teams to beat. They lost to.
Yeah, it's a B minus or a C plus for me. I'm trying to, somewhere around like 79, 80, 81, something like that. What do you think, Ralph?
I'm going to copy yours, Clint, somewhere between a C plus and a B minus. Biggest reason for that is 119th in the country in scoring offense in 2023, 19th this year. Just a massive, massive leap. Top 3 odds to lose his job going into the season for Dave Aranda, and finished a pretty promising season. Where I would take away from them is that he's supposed to be a defensive coach, and they stunk, even though they did improve quite a bit from last year. But they were scoring this year. So did they or did they not improve on defense is really the question, because they were surrendering possessions, which is why they were getting scored on so much in 2023. This year, they had the ball. They were eating up clock. They were scoring touchdowns, and their defense still went out and was getting torched. And so the offense was so much better that it made the defense slightly better, which I think was the biggest surprise maybe in all of college football this year, that Dave Aranda is going to be Baylor's head coach in 2025, and that people are going to say, look out for this offense.
Yeah. And, they also just stole TCU's safety coach, which really had me bummed out. That's a guy, Paul Gonzalez, who's been at TCU since I was there. He was a GA when I was there.
Oh, wow.
My senior year in 2012. So that's a big loss for us, a big game for their defense. But yeah, because it's Baylor, I'm going to round down. We'll give them a C plus, and we'll move on from there.
The Baylor Petersons and the TCU Bryles.
Yeah, right. Who saw that coming? Right,
I did
Baylor is
not.
hiring all these Gary Patterson's assistant coaches, and TCU is hiring all these Art Briles assistant coaches. To quote Matt Jennings, who's quoting Ghostbusters, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria. Right?
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. At Baylor, things are dangerous. Let's talk about BYU. It's another hard one because BYU had a really, really good team, but they stumbled down the stretch when it mattered. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe A-. Let me get their schedule pulled up and tell me what y'all are thinking.
I mean, I definitely think it helps that they beat Colorado in their bowl game.
Definitely.
I think that this team is a solid A. You could probably argue for an A- just because they did slip and fall towards the end there. BYU definitely seemed like the team that had the most control on whether or not they made the Big 12 championship. Once Iowa State started losing, it was more of a X, Y, and Z in order for Iowa State to get in there. It was A through F in order for Colorado to get in there. Arizona State and BYU, they only needed just a couple of things to happen, like one or two dominoes, and they were both in. Where all of a sudden BYU just started letting it slip away and away and away. And Kansas, man, why do you gotta be a fun hater?
Well,
Kansas is out here just killing everybody and making it super complicated, where if they just roll over and die like a good boy, we wouldn't have been in this predicament of trying to figure out till the very last football game of the Big 12 season who was going to be in the championship game.
Who did Iowa State lose to? They lost to Texas Tech, and did they also lose to Kansas?
Yes.
Okay.
Which is what started it all.
So I don't think it's fair to rank Iowa State as an A+, where BYU got the same. They got the same win-losses, except theirs are better. They lost to Arizona State.
Whoa, this is like BYU Twitter has a voice right now.
Yeah, no shit.
Yeah, they lost to Arizona State, which won the Big 12, whereas they both lost to Kansas, but BYU lost to Arizona State. Iowa State lost to Texas Tech, who's not bad, but I mean, not as good as Arizona State. So
they beat us.
I think BYU deserves the same, if not slightly better, ranking than Iowa State.
I don't know. I mean, I gave Iowa State the A+ because it's the first ever 11-win season and Pop-Tarts. That's literally my whole rationale. Those two things. Okay.
Well, we can't base it on previous seasons. We've got to, if we're giving them a 2024 report card, this is based on the 2024
But you can,
season.
because some of these players were on the 2023 season. Sometimes your recruiting is affected by
what
the
if you have
122
seasons of not doing something in a row?
Yeah.
Then I
Sometimes
based it on
more.
what they did. That's why I still gave them an A or an A-, but not an A+.
Well, now you're bringing history into it.
Yeah, I won't look at history. I'm just looking at this year. I'm not looking at expectations.
Why do
I'm
I
not
have a
looking at
feeling
prior
like
years.
Brittany is the speech teacher that gives you on some weird ass technicality?
I kind of am when I graded. When I used to teach, when I used to TA, I kind of was one of those people that everybody hates.
That explains it.
I give BYU an F for faith and family and football
and family
and fantastic.
I honestly feel like BYU got screwed. Like, I don't think. I don't want to double down and screw them more. Like, I don't know. I just feel like they deserve the same grade as Iowa State. I don't. If anything, a little better, because they beat
BYU.
lost
BYU should have had Tennessee's playoff spot. I'm standing on that, and I'm dying on that hill.
Same.
And I mean, hey, you look. They had some impressive wins. SMU, that's an impressive win. Kansas State, that's an impressive win.
Yeah, whereas Iowa State didn't have SMU either.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna give them an A-.
We had Iowa,
who wasn't good this year.
They're not good every year.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm giving BYU. I'm giving them the same, maybe like 1% better than ISU. I'm giving like ISU a 95, and I'm giving BYU a 96.
Oh, okay, that's fair. So both A's, right?
Yeah, they're both right there. I just don't think you can say one's an A and one's an A minus.
Carla's giving BYU a B plus for beating
B
SMU and rebounding with a bowl
plus?
win. B plus, Carla. She's grading hard over here. Don't take
What did
Carla's
she
credit.
give? What did she give ISU?
Don't
minus.
know. Carla. Oh, here we go. Yeah. A minus for ISU. No lower than an A minus. First 11.
Carla,
season
you're a
overall.
woman after my own heart, and I appreciate
Wait,
it.
so hold on. Is Iowa State? No, is BYU the only team that we're considering an A for that lost to a team that didn't go to a bowl?
So far. So far.
And did that happened in Provo?
Wait,
That
lost
wasn't
to a
Provo.
team? You mean because they
Ruh-roh.
lost to Kansas?
Yeah.
In
No,
Provo.
because Iowa
night.
State lost to Kansas, and you guys gave them A's.
Are we
Yeah.
sure Iowa State lost to Kansas? I don't know. I don't remember this.
Unfortunately, I was there.
But
I
where?
might have been intoxicated, but I was there.
I know for a fact they lost to Texas Tech. I remember that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sticking with A minus. I feel like that's fair. I mean, because BYU was in the driver's seat for the playoff. They were in the driver's seat for the championship game. They make neither, right? Because of that loss to Kansas and then the loss to Arizona State. Okay, here Carla has given you all of her grades. So that we
Carla
can,
does not hand out A pluses.
You
yeah.
guys are
I
haters.
respect it.
I'm gonna be a BYU defender.
They have enough of those.
Yeah, they do. They do. That's why they have all those children, is so that they can have more people on Twitter
They
to
can defend
defend
themselves.
Yeah, to defend the honor of their football program. Okay, so the team. I guess we got to talk about Cincinnati first. Cincinnati.
I don't even remember what happened with Cincinnati. I completely
Yeah,
forgot
hold
about them.
Let me get their schedule pulled up here. They're like way on down there in the Big 12 standings. Okay, so they beat Pitt, as I recall. No, not
Eat
Colorado.
it.
Wasn't
No, they
Pitt
lost
bad
to
this-
Pitt.
They
lost to
lost to
Pitt. 28-27. Eesh. Okay. Here, I'm getting it for us.
I gave them a C plus in my grading. In that's just because they did do better than expectations, I think, of the fan base. Especially when during the offseason they were gonna lose Corteleone because of a pulmonary embolism and having blood clots in his lungs. Him coming back was like a huge thing. When you look at what they were projected preseason at 14 and they finished 11th, I mean, it's a 5-7 season. I do believe that it is a little bit better than what I think they were anticipating, especially given now what the rankings are in the Big 12. Loss to Texas Tech honestly isn't that bad. It's not really that good, but it's not that bad.
They beat
It was
ASU.
competitive. It was a 3-point difference, So, and Texas Tech finished right around their neck of the woods for wins. The Arizona State game, 14-24 to 14. I mean, they held Scattaboo pretty well.
No
That's
Sam
probably
Levitt. That
yeah.
was- so they got the Jeff Sims experience in that game.
They
Yeah.
should have beaten Tech, by the way. I remember watching that game. They
should have
won
beaten
that game.
Tech.
Yeah.
They honestly were a lot of one way or another way, and they could have had a better record, and they could have gone bowling.
I do remember them because I remember thinking their quarterback was really good and should
He
go
is
pro.
good. He's very good.
Sorsby is amazing.
I would say that they outperformed their roster. However, there is no reason their roster should be as bad as it is.
They had a hard schedule though.
Yeah.
And they beat ASU.
They beat Jeff Sims.
I mean, if you take preseason into account for this, I think that bowling, like a 6-6, a 7-5, was going to be the projection for this team. But I mean, Big 12 got flipped all the way around. You had Colorado at the top, you had Iowa State at the top, Kansas State, is probably going to be good. TCU finally figured it out towards the end of the season. West Virginia, losing to West Virginia was kind of buns.
That's
but
brutal. Yeah,
Mhm.
at home. That was really probably their best chance to do something.
yeah, I think that West Virginia, especially when you're going through it and you just got off that win against Arizona State and then you lose a heartbreaker up in Boulder, I think everybody was looking at that schedule and going, we have to beat West Virginia to get bowl eligible. And I think falling short, that's kind of why I gave them that mid grade, because I think that there is a lot to improve on. But at the end of the day, I think the expectation was a little bit higher and they just didn't deliver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's I was flirting with a D plus. I think it's a C minus for me. They're going to graduate, but like by the skin of their teeth. You
These
know,
get degrees, baby.
I mean, yeah, they do. C for Cincinnati. There's just so many missed opportunities, but they had an opportunity to make a bowl game right up until that last game with TCU. But it is also, I mean, hey, losing a 5-game losing streak to end the season, that is rough. That is just rough. But
This
also
schedule-
too, I feel like if you're a Cincinnati fan, the 2 conference games that you absolutely do not want to lose, it's Houston and UCF, and they won those, and they beat, like y'all were saying, they beat Arizona State, right? Who should have beaten Texas. As far as my headcanon, they did beat Texas, right? So I guess it's a C minus for me.
It's like a student that did enough before getting mono for the last month.
Yeah, there you
Not
go.
enough points to pass.
Yeah.
Probably not going to walk. Probably still at home in bed, but you graduate.
It's
Yeah.
actually probably that kid that just did barely enough at midterms and calculated their
Yeah.
grade to pass to do all of the homework assignments and then just not come to the final.
Yeah, I'd give them a C. I don't want to go C plus because there's some bad stuff on here. I don't want to go C minus because there's some good stuff on here. And I think it's fair to say that they had a pretty tough schedule. Or at least they had a tough schedule.
It turned out to a tough schedule.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm looking at it as.
Yeah.
Remember, I'm not taking into account preseason.
That's true. Brittany has made her rubric very clear. All right, we were talking about him earlier as the most AstroTurf team maybe in history. The Colorado Buffaloes, we've been gaslit into believing, have the best players ever in all of football. And I made a YouTube short at the beginning of the year that did not age very well after they lost to Nebraska about how much Colorado sucks. And, then they ended up having a pretty decent season. But how would we grade it?
I mean, I give them an A. I mean, it's kind of, it's kind of
Look,
a weird one for
they
me.
also lost to Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas just ruins everything. Colorado preseason projected 11th. I mean, prime.
Hey, they beat the national champs. Let's put that out there. They beat the national champions, North Dakota State.
They did beat NDSU.
FCS national champions.
Yeah, they were projected 11th. They finished tied for first, or whatever the heck you want to call it, 4th place in the Big 12. I mean, that's a 7-point leap. I think that if Dion does stay in Colorado, they definitely got that building block to move them forward. I don't think that the full expectation, I mean, obviously there's some crazy fans in every fan base, but I think that the real expectation for Prime's first year in Colorado was not to be competitive for the Big 12 championship game, and they somehow did. Because of all the gaslighting and Travis Hunter getting the Heisman, it definitely brings more publicity to the university. And Shador and Travis Hunter, unfortunately, being 2 of the top 3 draft picks, is also helping them.
Please don't go to the Cowboys, please.
I'm really hoping he does. I think it would be hilarious.
But I mean, it for me, I think that it was just a really good year for them. I believe that a lot of that fan base was not having as high of aspirations as they did. And I do believe that they overperformed a little bit in comparison to what I think everybody thought that they were, which is why I give them that A. You could argue maybe A minus, but it's definitely starting with an A.
I think their schedule is a lot easier than some. I'm giving them an A minus.
Yeah, I think it's a B plus. You know, it's hard to give any lower than a B plus when you do have a player who wins the Heisman, whether he deserved it or not.
No, you
Frankly.
can, because you know
Fraudulent.
what? BYU and Iowa State lost 2 games each and won their bowl game. Colorado lost 3 and lost a bowl game for a total of 4 losses, 2 more losses than both ISU and BYU. So if you're going to give BYU an A minus, which I think they deserve an A, then Colorado gets a B plus.
Anyway, and that's literally where I'm at. You know, they got absolutely taken to school by BYU in that bowl game. I mean, just thrashed.
And it was
And
glorious.
that is really what's keeping me. That and the 3 losses in the regular season, one of them to Nebraska, for God's sake. You know, I can't give them an A. I think, personally.
Yeah, I'm changing. I'm going to go to B plus too, not A minus. They suck.
Gaslighters.
They got to be the first team in history to win 9 games, getting 65 yards rushing a game. I don't even know what to say about that. It's like coming to class
Because
on no sleep without a pencil and acing the final.
Because Deion Sanders' playbook is literally 4 verts.
And you know what? I really think they should have lost that game versus Tech. There was a lot of roughing going on in that game. They were dirty. B plus, B. It gets lower every time somebody talks.
By the way, since we are talking about Colorado, shout out and love to BMAC, friend of the show. Legendary Colorado coach Bill McCartney did pass away this past week. So all our love to BMAC and to the family. That is a true icon, Bill McCartney, who has now left us. But yeah, B plus on the season. Okay, so the Houston Cougars. This is kind of an interesting one. Because
I was rooting for them. They started to win some games that I didn't expect them to win, and then I was just like excited for them.
Yeah, they in some ways they overperformed. I mean, you know, it's still a 4-8 season, so it's still hard to, you know, be all that rosy about what grade we're going to give them. But I mean, heck,
they started with an
beat
F,
TCU's
dude.
ass. I'll tell you that much.
They
what do y'all
legitimately started with an F. Like, no joke, getting shut out multiple times at the beginning of the season, like, that was a huge yikes. I mean, you lose to UNLV by only putting up a touchdown. The Oklahoma game, you were like, oh, okay, like, they figured their stuff out, not realizing that Oklahoma was also butt that year. You beat a really crappy Rice team, and then you get skunked 2 games back to back. Like, when you look at those first 5 games, I'm literally giving them an F grade. But they did
Their
turn it
losses
around.
are pretty bad.
Like TCU, that was a fairly good win. Utah turned out to be a really crappy W, but
Kansas State,
they beat Kansas State. That was their best win. Yeah. And that's why I think that I have to give them like a C minus. I mean, it's not quite D material, but like the beginning of the season was going to be a straight up F. Like first portion of the season, give them a F minus, and then the rest of it, give them a C plus. So that averages to like what, a D plus C minus grade?
I think it's a D plus for me.
I
Farley graduating from Marquette, D plus.
Heck yeah.
I got a D plus
with a kinesiology degree.
I really want to give them a D plus, but they were kind of entertaining at points. So like I'm gonna give them a C minus for entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, like it's hard to even give them that much credit for the TCU win because we were playing terrible football at that point of the season.
That entire football game was terrible to watch.
Yeah, it was, and obviously Utah was not any good. You're really looking at like 1.5 impressive wins because, like, yeah, Rice is a rivalry game, but Rice is also just generationally terrible. Yeah,
but they're smart.
D plus for me. They are smart. Yeah, they chose to go to the moon. Why does Rice play Texas? Because it's hard.
I'll give them a D plus.
Okay, D plus for Houston.
I'll echo that. Going a full season without a 100-yard pass, rusher or receiver is insane in the Big 12. You almost have to try to do that. And so that middle third of the season is very impressive. outside of that, one of the worst seasons in Big 12 history. So I don't know what to say. Maybe they'll be a lot like Colorado, Arizona State next year in the second year with a head coach and getting a quarterback. And I think they got Weigman, right? From A&M, maybe?
His name is Weedman.
Weigman.
I think it's Weigman. I think
Weigman.
it's
It's Weigman.
Well, the last time they took an A&M quarterback, it
Weedman.
didn't work out so good. So shout out.
Weigman
to
is one of
Kyle
the most aggressively Gen Z players out there right now.
Allen.
Bro,
more than the quarterback that just committed to North Carolina.
Oh well, yeah, I guess him too.
Woo!
That
Um,
kid's social
that up.
media presence. Yikes.
We used to be a proper country. What's happening to the youth? Counting down the days until that TikTok ban. Jeez,
It's that
Louise.
dang tic tac, I tells
Yeah.
yous.
Yeah. Okay. So, Brittany, now's your time to shine. Let's grade the Kansas Jayhawks season. What are you feeling? What are you thinking?
They won some impressive games. So
Brittany's about to give them an A+.
no.
She totally is.
They
Now
beat
she's gonna try to justify an A.
They beat Iowa State, BYU, and Colorado all in a row. Okay, all in a row. I
The team's
I
not
don't
bad.
know. I just feel like they deserve. I'll give them a B
Impressive.
because of those. If they had that with other teams, it would have been like a C plus, B minus. But I'm giving them a B because 3 of the top teams in a row, and they only lost by 2 points to Kansas State the week before that. Really, they didn't do that bad. I expected them to go to the championship or be in the running for it this year. So that was kind of depressing and not what I was expecting. And I was really hoping they'd at least get bowl eligible. But those 3 wins in a row and almost knocking off Kansas State to have 4 in a row, actually, and then Houston sucks, but still, if they had won that Kansas State game, that would have been 5 wins in a row. And you know what? Their losses too. Look at their losses. Arizona State was good. TCU was decent. Illinois ended up ranked, I believe, or at least
They had a great year.
Yeah, they had a great
Yeah.
year. Illinois had a great year.
10 wins, I think.
yeah. So
The Fighting Billamas.
I'm giving them a B.
It's really unfortunate that Brett Bielema didn't end up in a headdress at some point this season. That's shirtless and in a headdress.
He almost ended up in a headlock in the bowl game.
It almost ended up in a
At-
headlock.
At Illinois, it's because they banned it. They banned it. My mom went to Illinois.
Yeah. Yeah. White people can't have any fun anymore. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, you look at this Kansas season, it's like such a what if. I mean, what if Kansas just runs the dadgum ball against TCU? What if Kansas, finds a way to get bowl eligible with a win against Baylor there and, finish the season with 4 straight and 3 of them being against the top teams in the conference? I mean, this may be the highest grade that I could give a team that did not make a bowl game. Yeah, I feel like I'm talking myself into a B, honestly, somewhere in that B range.
Well, and even if you want to take the other top team, Arizona State, they only lost by 4.
Yeah,
it wasn't even a full touchdown.
Yeah, this turned into a shockingly hard schedule.
So the whole Big 12 close games thing making all the difference. This is a team that is 24 points away from being 10-2.
And if you cut off the last 2 minutes of the game, they are 10-2.
Yeah.
That should say it all to you. Kansas is great until the last 2 minutes of the game. For me, I gave them a C+. Just off the sole fact that they should have been higher. They should have been winning these games. If the head coaches would have done their job in the last 2 minutes, and if Jalen Daniels learned how to hold on to a football for once, they probably could have beaten Kansas State. They could have beaten Arizona State. They could have probably at least competed against TCU. They would have beaten West Virginia. They would have beaten UNLV. And the Illinois game could have been a flip. So I think off of just them underperforming in the last 2 minutes, I can't give them a B. Like
I'm
it-
giving them a C- because of the Baylor game. Like that has to be factored in. They had an opportunity with the season on the line to keep things going,
and they beat
and they got
three top.
worked.
They beat 3 of the top 4 Big 12 teams consecutively, and then they dropped that Baylor game.
I know, but don't you get tired? Isn't it fair to let them have a bad game after beating 3 of the best teams and almost knocking off?
Not if you wanna
I
go
mean,
to a bowl
technically, they
game.
had like 7 bad games.
It's easy to get tired when you don't sleep the night before. Like, look at they opened 1-5.
Yeah.
Steve with a great take here. Kansas was an F, then an A, then an F at the end.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that averages out to a B, right? Or a C, something like that. I don't know. I feel good about a B with this Kansas team. You know what next year holds? Who the heck knows? And it's unfortunate for them that they're not running the Big 12 in basketball anymore. Uh-oh.
That was mean.
Yeah.
That was rude.
We've done it for like 20 years. Relax. Okay? Relax.
They held us to 13 second half points the other day, so I'm not going to add anything to that conversation.
All right, let's look on the other side of the Sunflower Showdown. Kansas State, who might have the same grade as Kansas. Interestingly enough, let me think about it. They finished 8-4, correct? Or is it 9-4? 9-4.
They were
Okay.
such a what the hell team. Like, I'd be like, oh, they're winning. Oh, they're losing. Oh, they're winning. Oh, they're losing. Like, I had no idea what they were doing.
Did anyone? Do any of us?
They were an F-1 for me, which turns out to be an H when you type it for hatred.
Also, keep
Honestly-
in mind, they lost to 3 of the top teams. Kansas won to those 3 top teams.
That's true. That is true.
I mean, I gave them a C. I think the expectation was Big 12 championship game, and they definitely fell short of that. And
Yeah.
I will still, to this day, fight every single K-State fan in saying Avery Johnson is a glorified running back that knows how to throw a slant.
Avery
Kim-
Johnson was not as good as he
Kim-
was last year. He looked a lot better last year than he looked
Yeah.
this year.
Basically.
Their 2 best wins are Colorado and Tulane. And they found a way to pull out the bowl game, thankfully, for the sake of the Big 12.
Yeah, imagine
God.
thinking that you were going to be relevant by beating a 20th ranked Arizona and a 20th ranked Oklahoma State just to realize that they were the bottom feeders the whole time.
Yeah, this might be a C+, really.
Not even a
Especially
plus.
Definitely not a
C.
B. It
Yeah.
definitely does not have a B rating. And
What do you
that
think, Ralph?
game was bad.
I'm comfortable with a C+. I would say that they I say what you want. I think Avery Johnson was a top half quarterback in the conference.
Definitely
And-
top 16.
Hey, that's saying something.
He just started at Houston. But I don't know. I want to say that I didn't feel like they had a number 1 receiver, but Spivey is pretty good. They just didn't use him. The games.
Excuse me, Iowa would like a word.
What do they want to talk about? I don't want to talk to them.
Oh, the K-State is one of the worst 9-win teams.
Oh yeah, with regard to Pretty Accurate's comment here.
Yeah, I don't know. C+ makes sense, but if I'm playing by Brittany's expectations don't matter rules.
It's still in the C range. I don't think you can go on B.
Hey, expectations matter for this next one. Oklahoma State. It is an
F.
F. That's a triple F. Like, oh
Can
my
you get a
God.
worse grade than an F? I mean, I personally have never tried,
Holy
but
crap.
like Oklahoma State definitely tried to get worse than an F.
Just absurd,
They
man.
didn't even
absurd.
try.
I mean,
a
at
good
least they
first-
beat Arkansas. At least they beat Arkansas.
That's a good
And they're like
Two
a couple of
overtimes.
those are some really big losses too. Like they're not even close. Lost to West Virginia by how many points is that? 24 points. West Virginia wasn't even good.
No.
Yeah.
the
I
last
think-
game was very funny.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that's
God.
very
Yeah, no.
funny.
52-0. No. F.
I was having the absolute time of my life that game.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know offhand, but that's got to be the biggest margin that we've beaten Oklahoma State by at least since 2017, at least. Yeah, this is not a good Oklahoma State team. It's definitely an F.
just insane because, like, when you looked at the front half of the schedule, they beat South Dakota State, who's a very good powerhouse FCS team.
Yeah.
Then they beat Arkansas in double overtime, which, thanks to SEC bias, is basically like beating Arizona State on a regular basis. And then Tulsa, I mean, you should not lose to Tulsa to begin with. But then they barely lost to Utah, and everybody was saying, like, oh, these are the two front runners. Like, this is going to be our Big 12 championship game. And then all of a sudden, they just, like, fell off the face of the earth, and it was glorious watching the whole Mike Gundy saga.
I'm shocked he's still here. I really thought the donors were going to get rid of him. It's the first time, I think it was 20 years that they've missed a bowl.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first time ever since he took over. They've never had worse than, what did I read? A 7-win season under Gundy? Or some ridiculous stat like that.
Yeah,
where
they're never worse than
been
mediocre
lower
under
than
Gundy,
7.
usually. Yeah.
And it's absolutely insane seeing this. And I just remember everybody's like, oh, Mike Gundy is totally going to leave or get canned. And then I just remember the statement where they were like, Oklahoma State is currently renegotiating Mike Gundy's lifetime contract. And Mike Gundy's like, nah, I'm good. I'm not signing anything. And they're like, okay, well, then we're just going to fire you. And he's like, whoa, you can do that? like brother.
He's got to be on the hottest seat in America next year, right? I mean, if you don't make a bowl game next year, I mean, I don't know how you could continue down this Mike Gundy road, especially since he seems so ill-equipped to deal with NIL and the transfer portal and all these things.
Well, and he's had controversies. He's also had the issue of only hiring his like buddies who suck, who they finally had reason to fire. I mean, that was part of it. They kept him, but told him like, hey, you got to fire your buddies or you're going to.
Well, he hired another one of his buddies. I mean, Doug Meacham from TCU coming to be the new offensive coordinator. And I actually got a chance to talk to him on his way out to that job. And, he was downplaying it. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, how could you take this job? You're walking into such a high pressure situation. But he's like, I mean, you got to win everywhere, is what he said. And he was like, I mean, honestly, if TCU doesn't start winning, then I'd likely be canned there. So I might as well go where I have a little more control. So I'm like, okay, well, hopefully it works out for you.
Good luck, Chuck.
I just want to recap some of the incredible things about this season. Voted second. Was that right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Voted second. Played in the Big 12 championship last year. Oldest offensive line in football. Oldest quarterback. Yeah. Heisman candidate.
The oldest quarterback. Yeah.
Preseason Heisman candidate at running back. And they were the second to last Power 4 team in points allowed per game this year. Second only to Purdue. And even better, their biggest win of the season, margin-wise, over an actual FBS school was against Tulsa, right? Where they scored 45, but Tulsa gave up 44 on the season. So it wasn't even like better than all of Tulsa's conference opponents did against them. They had one of the most disastrous years in college football history, and they retained their head coach. Just incredible. Bravo. Great work all around by everybody involved.
Are they the first 0-9 team in Big 12 history?
No. There's a lot of bad Kansas and Iowa State teams.
I didn't know if they were playing nine conference games back in the. I mean, because I know Baylor and Iowa State and Kansas, yes, have all had bad seasons, but I didn't know if they played 9 conference games. Is what I'm saying.
I'm pretty sure they did.
For us.
I can tell you there were some no-win seasons before between the two of those, because they used to fight for who would beat each other between
2020, they were 0-8. 2017, Kansas was 0-9.
Oh, okay. There you go.
2015, they were 0-9. 2012, they were 0-9.
Well, now you're just rubbing
2011,
salt
they
in the
were
wound.
0-9.
Okay, we've established they're not.
Do Iowa State now. I guarantee Iowa State did the same thing.
Oh, Iowa State is just as bad.
Do we have a Kansas Oklahoma State face-off situation?
We might be. They
No,
swapped.
it literally
One
it used
swapped
to
to
be a big
mediocrity, and
deal.
the other one's the bottom dweller.
Freaky Friday?
For real.
It literally used to be a big deal when Iowa State and Kansas would play each other because they both sucked, and their only win in conference during the season was whoever won that game. To the point where Kansas beat Iowa State at home in Lawrence and tore down their own goalpost my sophomore year of college.
Iowa State only has one 0-9 conference record, and that was in 2014.
How many ones do they have?
More
Probably against Kansas. Probably against Kansas.
Let's see here.
I know they got a lot of twos.
2-7, 3-6, 3-6, and that's it. No 1-8s.
There you go. Well, I've kept y'all for an hour and a half. I want to kind of keep moving and grooving through the rest of these. There's too many teams in this conference. What are we
16 to be
rating the Horned
exact.
Frogs? Strong into the season, honestly.
I gave them a B.
Yeah.
I think that there was a lot left to be desired from this specific team. I definitely think Hoover showed that he is the truth. And then you guys finally figuring out how to run a football kind of started resolving.
That didn't happen until the bowl game, but okay.
It,
They really didn't beat anybody impressive, and they really didn't lose necessarily to anybody shockingly either.
UCF was buns.
Yeah, and Houston too, but still not shocking. I think they should have lost that Texas Tech game, honestly.
But then again, we should have won the UCF game.
But there's nothing really
You
like
should have also won the Baylor game.
Yeah.
there's nothing that like impresses me one way or another standing out. Like I think it's just mediocre all around.
It's a B- to me because
A
of
B-?
missed opportunity. B-.
That high?
I mean, I think so. Just because we finished strong, at least we righted the ship. Because it was disaster. It was an F after October 4th. That was an absolute F. Fire everyone. Like this is ridiculous. But we finished strong. We had a strong showing in the bowl game against an inferior opponent. Really, it's when you look at the schedule, we should have been in the conference title conversation if we just had a modicum of competence, right?
Can I try and talk you off this ledge for a second? Because I think you're wrong.
You want me to grade lower?
Yes, because you say after October 4th. Okay, the next 3 games, you beat Utah. Woohoo. Utah sucks. Only by 6. And then you beat Texas Tech in a game you shouldn't have won only by 1. And then you lost to Baylor by 3.
Losing to Baylor is worth a letter grade for sure.
And then your last 3 games are against shitty teams. A B? What? No.
You
That's
guys,
that's a
they did smoke
C.
Louisiana though, and got that super cool clay pot. That's at least
Yeah, the
great.
clay pot.
You know what? The clay pot was really cool. I'm a big fan of the clay pot.
See,
Yeah.
now you need to give them a B because it's a
No.
cool clay pot.
I'll give them a C+ then, because I was gonna give them a flat out C. They do not deserve to be in the B conversation with that. No.
I mean, the SMU loss was one of the most embarrassing losses I've ever witnessed in my life.
But SMU went to the playoffs.
Huh?
The playoffs.
Well, but then at least we were in the national championship, right? Like losing to SMU and just getting
How did that
skunked by
go?
SMU. I mean, that was rough, right? Yeah, maybe it is a C+, honestly.
Thank you.
Clay pot is cool though, I don't know. And Josh
Man,
Hoover
he just
actually he set
gaslit
the
you into a
single season
shittier
passing
grade.
record, so that's also that's impressive.
Yeah, I think when you gave them a B, it was just like your bias coming through, because I look at this and I just go, nah.
But I tend to be I mean, whenever I tend to be optimistic going into a season and then pessimistic reviewing a season, right? So I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe it is a C+. It wasn't great, that's for sure.
I can't give them anything higher than a C+, C-, whatever. It can't be a B for the sole reason that they kicked a field goal from the 7-yard line to make a one-score game a one-score game in the fourth quarter against UCF.
Yeah.
And then they lost because of it, which is just maybe the worst move of the entire year.
Every one of those losses was just so bad, so bad. It really felt like more than 4 losses in this.
And
Yeah,
that
maybe there's a
Texas
few
Tech
guys.
game should have been a loss.
That
But
coaching
it
staff
wasn't,
was
okay,
running
so
through
chill.
it.
It
It
wasn't.
should have been. I
We got the
screamed on the
sample.
drive home.
Wait a minute,
TCU
wait.
is the champions of Texas.
Should have been. It sounds like expectation language.
No, I mean like watching the game. They were down by how many were you losing by most of the game?
So
Well, that was like
because that-
all of
because that
2022.
gap
We
is
came back from
one
like
red
multi-touchdown losses.
Man, somebody's throwing expectations into this now. Man, I
No,
gotta
only for
reassess my
watching
grades
that-
here.
That
Well, I just
only
gave
for
2
watching the
expectation-based grades, and then I found out I wasn't allowed to do that. So I'm bitter.
game. The rest of the season. Who is this guy? Their 3
Yeah.
wins are the crappy teams at the end.
Ralph, it's
So
okay.
my mom
I'm
thinks it
with
was
you.
a C.
Thank you. Thank you. Somebody who finally takes my side.
Yeah. I mean, truly, if it wasn't such an easy schedule, yeah. I mean, that does bump it down back into the C category too, because like we should have done so much better.
Looking
did.
back at it now, it looks like you literally got like a freebie, like 12-0 season schedule.
Yeah, and just pissed down our leg the whole time.
And if Kansas had that scheduled, they'd still be 6-6.
Bum, bum, ba, bum, bow.
Bow.
All right, let's talk about Texas Tech since Brittany wants to talk about saddle non-possessors. Here we go. The Tech did not have a great. I'm not going to grade Tech very high either. These are the off-season champions, the portal champions every year. That loss to Arkansas was bad. It was so bad, and they should have lost to Abilene Christian. I don't know. You got
shout out
Iowa
to-
But they
State.
should have beat TCU.
Coach
Yeah.
Keith Patterson and Maverick McIver, Abilene Christian. What a team.
Yeah.
Look at who their conference losses are to. Colorado, who was top 4. TCU and Baylor, who were both 7 and 5, I think. And then they beat Arizona State. And
9-win
Iowa
TCU,
State.
Excuse you, 9-win TCU.
Jumped all over us. Jumped all over us and then held on for dear life.
That's what I'm saying. They beat really good teams.
Oh, they're
One of
very
their
good at holding.
losses is to a really good team. Honestly, I think they get a B.
Yikes.
Mm,
I'm ignoring the bowl. If you factor in the bowl, it's going to go down to a B minus.
yeah, that bowl was a really rough way to end the year. I don't think I could give them higher than a B minus.
I can't give them anything with a B in it. I mean, what's wild is Texas Tech
They beat
is one of 2 teams that were like the closest position wise to preseason to end of regular season. Texas Tech went up 2 spots. West Virginia went down 2 spots. Those are the 2 teams that were the closest to their projection finish. And I think that their wins were good wins. Arizona State, Iowa State. But like those losses, man, like you lost to Baylor by a significant amount. You
you. Their
lost to
losses were good
TCU.
teams by 1.
You lost to Washington State, which was not a good team. And then you got roundhouse kicked by Arkansas. Like, it's a C for me. I think it's middle of the road. It's one of those where you could probably look at that schedule and be like, yeah, that's expected of them or whatever. But they didn't overperform. And I don't think that they underperformed either.
I think they did better than me.
And they did need overtime for ye olden Abilene Christian.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
And
I'm picking up what you're
can't-
putting down there. I think it's a C, right 75.
right down
Right.
the middle.
Yeah.
A plus. A plus. 15 straight years without 6 conference wins, and they did it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
A plus. Texas
Thank
Tech.
you. Thank you.
Texas Tech, like the ultimate 5-7 team, and so I don't know. They've been so bad with quarterback health the last few years. To get Baron Morton through a full season was pretty cool. They're never going to field a good defense ever, I don't think.
Taj Brooks was awesome.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he killed everybody. I don't know. They can't do better. They can't do better than this.
I
They
think it's
like
good. I
Trojan
think
match.
their wins are really good.
I mean,
This
they
is
even
the
had this
best that they're
quarterback
gonna
called
do.
Patrick Mahomes.
Don't
and
tell
they
don't
still
tell the
lost by 16
boosters that they
points.
can't do better than this, Ralph. I mean,
No,
they're
they don't
literally
care. They just keep giving money.
yeah.
Cody Campbell keeps giving money.
Yeah,
Cody
Cody Campbell's
is
spending the
single-
GDP of Dubai to like buy every
He is
transfer.
single-handedly buying the portal.
I
Like,
seriously wish that I had oil money. I mean, I would not be telling a lot of people, but there would definitely be signs.
every single time that somebody's like, Cody Campbell, go get this guy. And he's like, okay. And then he goes and does whatever he says he's going to do. It's impressive. Waffles gives them
John
100%,
Mateer to
by the
Iowa
way.
State. How did
Waffles,
Iowa State get John Mateer?
Waffles says that they are the Big 12 champions because they beat both ASU and ISU who were in the Big 12 championship. So,
Yeah, A+.
yeah. No.
All right, let's talk about the not golden, just Knights, UCF. 4-8. This is the other team other than Utah. You love to see struggle a little bit.
Really?
Here we go. There's their schedule. Not ideal. Not great.
Oh, God.
Best
I
wins
give
against
them-
TCU. Yeesh.
I
They
give them
basically
a
did what Oklahoma
solid
State did.
D-.
You say a B minus?
A D-.
Okay.
A very solid D-. I mean, they beat another bottom feeder, and I think they should not have beaten TCU that game. I don't know how that happened. And they took Iowa State to the wire, but the huge thing is, like, Gus Malzahn was brought into that entire situation because they wanted like a front office recruiter type of guy, and Gus Malzahn flat out said that he wasn't going to do that. He would just rather do the X's and O's. And UCF was like, we don't give a shit about your feelings. You're going to do what we tell you to do. And he was like, fine, whatever, I'll do it. And then as the season went on, you started to realize that Gus Malzahn, all he wanted to do was call the X's and not the O's.
Mm.
And it was terrible. And I am extremely happy that he got rid of all those coordinators and blamed all those coordinators just to go to FSU. Because as soon as Norvell starts losing, guess who's getting fired? His buddy Gus.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, think about what Gus has done to so many offensive coordinators in his coaching career.
Oh, dude,
Like
he's
they've never
murdered it.
actually had OC power. Norvell is one of his guys. So is Kenny Dillingham. Like,
Yeah.
but they've all been like OCs in name only. It'll be very fascinating to see how that works out. I will say they got an F before the season started for deciding that KJ Jefferson was going to be the guy.
Right?
and like, shout out to them in an election year for doing the most presidential election thing ever, winning New Hampshire and having it not matter at all.
Yes. And by a landslide. as
Yes,
well. Yeah.
they stink. RJ Harvey was so much fun to watch, though.
Yeah. Great
RJ
running back.
Harvey was
D-minus
literally
season.
UCF.
I give them a D- or a D. I mean, they basically did what Oklahoma State did, but one of their non-conference wins was to TCU, barely.
That
And
was
they
a
beat
conference win.
That was a conference, yeah.
what? Oh, okay. They
Their
flopped with
non-conference was
Florida.
Yeah, Florida's down.
Okay. So they have one more win than Oklahoma State did. But they also were close with Iowa State and close with Arizona State. Both of those games were 3 points and 4 points.
Flukes. Neither
Mhm.
team knew how to stop RJ Harvey. You take RJ Harvey
Oh
off
my
of this
God.
UCF team, and UCF was not going to win a game.
You should have learned how to stop a good running back. We had plenty of them this year.
Mm.
Yeah,
Ollie
no,
Gordon
I'd
not
say
being one of them.
no, not Ollie Gordon, but all the other teams did. Yeah, I'm gonna say a D or a D-. I don't think they deserve an F, but it is bad.
Yeah. Yeah. They won 2 conference games. You can't
Oh.
totally give them an F.
And didn't Scott Frost go back?
Yes, what is
National
old is
championship,
new.
Scott
Yes,
Frost.
Scott Frost is back.
He looks like he's aged like 40 years. I remember thinking he was the
Nebraska
hottest
does
thing
that,
alive
too.
the
Yeah, I was
last
gonna
time he
say,
was
if you're
there.
around that much corn, you know.
Them 4-win Lincoln Winters.
Yeah, yeah.
He
If
was
you're
a beautiful man, and now he looks very old and tired.
Nebraska
He
football.
also
will do that
just
too.
spent the last couple of years hanging out in Scottsdale, so that'll
Oh,
weather you
boy.
a little bit.
Yeah.
That'll tan you.
Do that Cam Scatterby puke and rally a few hundred times, and that'll put the years on. All right, let's talk about Utah home stretch. 2 more teams to talk about.
I don't even have to look at this one.
I mean, yeah,
Trash.
Hot garbage.
Yep.
for sure.
This is the second one. Can you give them a worse grade than an F? Like,
I mean, they did beat Baylor.
They beat Baylor, they beat Oklahoma State, and they beat UCF.
they beat Baylor before Baylor knew how to football. They
Yeah.
beat a really crappy Okie State team. And UCF, at that point, I'm pretty sure Gus Malzahn already had his next move lined up. And you can not convince me otherwise.
They were close to BYU, 22-21, and close to ISU, only lost by 3. But they also only lost to 3 by Houston. Ugh.
Yeah, but a lot of those close games are
You can
big
just see-
chilling in Utah.
I can't
They
be
get a
nice to them. I agree with that guy. They get a Z. I don't even care that they did better than Oklahoma State. I hate them, which automatically their morale drops them down to a Z.
I do vibe with the Z pretty accurate. I do love that. May make that my official grade, a Z. I mean, you know what? They get an F if for no other reason than for all of the belly aching they did after that BYU game.
They're exhausting. You know what?
Yeah.
And their stupid coach that had to go on a stupid little rant, and their university president and
Their
stuff.
AD,
No.
yeah, their
Their
AD
AD.
gets up on the
Awful.
mic.
Yeah, it was their
Whoa,
AD.
whoa, whoa.
They're
You
so
talking
bad.
about
They're
University of Arizona,
insufferable.
Mark Garland?
I want them out. Out. I'll give
Yeah.
them back for free. Don't even have to pay us. Out.
I might have
get-
to make another Mark Harlan statement in the not too distant future.
Oh yeah, I remember that you did that.
I have
for-
letterheads for every single athletic department. So
I can't wait till you get a cease and desist for one of those.
oh, I've gotten
Real
2 from
quick,
Iowa
though.
State.
For any Utah fans who are watching this right now, as you can see, 3 people have their Twitter handle under their name. I do not. I love Utah.
Come and sign me. Y'all have me blocked
Yeah.
anyway.
I
Out.
gave you an F for fantastic. Mexican food at the Blue Iguana is great. Zion National Park, just everything. Mwah. Salt Lake City, love it. Happy retirement, Kyle Whittingham. Eventually,
Eventually. I
If Tim
don't.
Rising comes back, I'm jumping in Lake Michigan. It's right at the end of my block.
My one trip to Salt
Nothing
Lake,
will
where
make
do
me happier.
we ate at this like Texas Day Brazil type place that you know where they like bring the meats around
The
and, like,
skewers?
yeah. There was like the whole equipment staff, we all went there, and I tried a chicken heart for the first time. That is
Oh my
my
God.
enduring memory of the Salt Lake City trip. That
Pretty
and
good,
just like
aren't they?
absolutely destroying them before they lost to Notre Dame the next week. Thanks for that, guys. Okay, let's talk about them Mountaineers. Not great.
F.
Not
Are
great.
they last?
Is this another F? I don't know. D. What are they? I mean, they did get rid of Neil Brown, so that's got to count for something. And they made a bowl game.
I mean, I give them an A for effort, but at the same time, like, effort does not give you your final grade. Like, losing to Pitt by 4 when you should have won that game, that was a red flag. I think
Penn
we all
State
knew.
loss looks fine.
Yeah, we all knew that they were going to lose to Penn State, and if they somehow pulled off the upset, then we knew for a fact that Morgantown was burning to the ground. Win against Kansas before Kansas figured out how to football. The win against Oklahoma State, I think at that point we knew what Okie State was, so it wasn't overly impressive.
No, that was only Oklahoma State's second loss.
It would have been their...
It was their second. They won the first 3 games and then lost the rest of the season.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Depends on their bye. It would have been their... They would have been, what, 3 and... They could have been 3-1 at that point.
Oh, they might have played the 28th. So yeah, maybe it was their 3rd game.
Oh yeah, they lost to Kansas State. before the West Virginia game. So they were 3-2 going into that game.
Yeah. So, I mean, at that point, you kind of figured that Okie State wasn't going to be as competitive as they originally thought. Then you lose a night game at Morgantown against Iowa State, which they did and should have probably won that game. I think just a couple of errors on Green's side kind of kept Iowa State lingering. And then that Kansas State game, like back to back, and you just get railroaded by Kansas State. I think at that point, I think that was when Neil Brown came out and said that you need to go to the football games for the experience and enjoy the weather than actually the football game and the results of the football game.
Wait, did he actually say that?
Oh, yeah. He legitimately said that you need to come out to Morgantown and enjoy the weather.
Look at the foliage.
At that point, I think that's what gives him like that D- F for me, is Neil Brown was just trying to save his ass and pulling a Mike Gundy and just like coming up with whatever excuse, like, oh, I wrestled my bull today and poked my eye out, so I can't see with both of my eyes and I can't properly play call. Because we all know Mike Gundy has pulled that one off before.
Yeah.
But them finally getting over the Neil Brown hump is good for them, and bringing back Rich Rod is gonna be hilarious.
Honestly,
And I love it. Pat White,
no matter what
2.0
happens, it's gonna be
inbound.
funny. Yeah.
Honestly, I'm gonna give them a straight C, right down the middle, because there's nothing that sticks out that's like impressive, nothing that's shockingly bad. They had a 50 record. And then their bowl game, yeah, they lost, but it was to 25 ranked Memphis, and they only lost by 5, not even a touchdown. So I'm gonna give them a C. I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, I think it's a D+. They made a bowl game. They got rid of Neil Brown. They also scored 15 in a game, right? I mean, how can you not love that? It's a D+ for me. Not obviously not where they would want to be, but not an F.
I'm gonna give them a little higher than a D+ because, well, maybe not. Like, they chose to start Garrett Green over Nico Marchiol. That was a choice they made.
Yep.
And then when he played, they were 2-0 on the road. So it's their fault that they were in that situation.
That is a good point.
So yeah, I guess maybe I will go with the D+, because I'm a Nico fan. I thought he should have been playing. Obviously, they like that Garrett Green can run around. But I like winning football games. So, everybody makes their choices.
Yeah. Well, there we go. We have graded every single one of the 16 teams in the Big 12, biggest 12 in history. So thanks, y'all, for hanging out, and thanks, the three of you, for coming on. I'll be sharing all these grades on Twitter so you can reference them back. Tell the good people where they can find you, friends.
Who wants to go first? I'll go first. Okay. I changed my handle so you can find me at and Brittany says, and then whatever I said, my podcast is Big 12 After Dark, but it's in a hiatus, so you can follow it anyway. And then my dog, if you like dogs, or you like Texas Tech and you want a dog narrating Texas Tech, you can find him at Waffles Wreckham.
You can find me in a 2015 Nissan Quest taking my kids to sports practice. Also,
oh yeah, I forgot. Ralph doesn't want to be found by the Utah fans.
I gave BYU an F and I'm standing by it. So
I will happily let all of our favorite Utah fans find me at Hoosier Burner. They can finally read that statement that Big 12 Mafia had to come out and tell everybody that it was false. And
Shout out to Big 12 Mafia for setting the record straight.
Yeah, which I thought was hilarious, because if you didn't get through like half the article and be like, yeah, this is phony, that's on you. So Hoosier Burner. Otherwise, you can find my stuff on widerightnattylight.com. We also have a Discord, so feel free to head over to our Twitter account, widerightnattylight, and grab that link. Come join us. We allow all sports fans to come and chill and hang out with us.
Fantastic. Y'all subscribe to the show at Big 12 Voice of College Football. We do this every Tuesday night. It is a lifestyle. It is a movement. Let's grow the show. Follow me on Twitter at Clint_Foster55 and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Clint Foster Comedy. And catch the Big 12 on your favorite podcasting app of choice. Make us a part of your commute. You know, like let's just go all in with this thing. So until next week, I love you. I hope your team wins. Go Irish and go Big 12.
No.
See y'all around.
Bye.